Hello, and you're all very welcome along to the latest episode of Champ.ie's Road to Cheltenham Challenge, brought to you in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse and Syndicates.Racing. Talking all things Cheltenham, the top performances over the 7 days, and answering your hashtag big questions every Monday. Barry and Rona will once again go head to head by giving one Ante-Post selection each week until the 2024 festival in March.
It is Lossiemouth who has the lead at the last. Lossiemouth is over by 2 lengths from centre. Then Gowran with 200 yards to race. It is Lossiemouth at the moment keeping up the gallop, keeping a 2-length advantage over Gowran, who's moved past centre, but neither will move past Lossiemouth, who wins the JCB Triumph Hurdle.
Showing over 44 points profit and 132 point stake since 2020, the Champ.ie Road to Cheltenham Challenge show is this season bidding to secure 4 years of Ante-Post profit in a row. The lads look forward to discussing your selection this week, and don't forget it's important to update your full Ante-Post portfolio in the comments to help us keep track. Give this video a like for more Cheltenham content, and be sure to subscribe to the Champ.ie YouTube channel, Ireland's premier racing podcast. Enjoy the show.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
So, hello and welcome back to episode number 15 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This week, of course, episodes of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. We are building up Ronan Groome like we've never built up before. And of course, our episode proudly in association with Boylesports, our betting partner, Syndicates.Racing. The syndicate to get you to the big days. Grand G, of course. We had Cabaret Queen, big winners for the syndicate, and you can get involved. Don't forget as well. And €50 off your first year with Syndicates.Racing. Make sure to type in the discount code into the checkout when selecting your horse with Syndicates.Racing. The first place we're going to start this week is with our portfolios. We're going to review our portfolios to date, see where we're standing, have a look at horses that have contracted in price, and indeed those that are not even going to run in Cheltenham anymore. But this is where we're at. Take it away. How are you feeling about your portfolio?
I'm probably not as strong as other years, and I didn't actually do that well at the end of other years, but maybe that's the way it goes. Maybe some Mondays will click, but if we go from the start, Allegory Devassi, like, she's exactly the same price she is now, so at least that's alive. Gaelic Warrior looked very good at one point. It doesn't look that good anymore, but might actually still run in the Turners, so still not alive there. Look to the west even, that's a bust. Firefox is a bust, goes to Supreme. Gentleman's Game, there's got a bit of value there. I still think he could be in and around the 20-1 mark on the day, but I give him an outside chance still. I think I think he looks all right. Gentleman's Game, probably a bit on the inexperienced side, but Mouse is a master when he went with these horses, and has decided to go straight to Cheltenham. He's done that before very successfully, so yeah, I wouldn't give up on him. Mighty Bandit has it all to do in a Triumph Hurdle that looks all about Sergino. Then I got a bit of momentum going. Factifile, obviously, we both put him in, looking like he's going to go for Brown Advisory now. So that's probably the best bet on the ticket, likely to go off, possibly odds on in a small runner field. So you got to be happy with that at 7-1. I'm hoping Tricard Bragg goes for the National Hunt Chase, because I think he will be. I think if you got a top amateur on him, like Gordon tends to get, he could be something like 6-1 on the day. So that's a nice price at 18-1. Il Atlantique, don't know. Likely to go for Barry Bingham, so haven't absolutely thrown the ticket up or ripped the ticket up even. But even if he did go for Supreme, he probably has it to do, and likely to face one of the A-teamers from the Mullins clan. And well, if it's not Ballyburn, it's Tully Hill or Mystical Power. So see what happens there. Jade de Grugy, that's a good one at 10-1. Another one we both put in. Baz, we should team up more often, because the two prices we have doubled up on are actually cracking bets. Jade de Grugy in there 10-1. She's probably going to be in and around 5-2 to 3-1 on the day. So that's a good bet.
Well, if both of those win Ronan Groome for the challenge, we'll have clawed 17 points into both of our kitties. So we're a long way to coming out in profit for the 4th year in a row if both of them win. So if that double comes up, and don't forget yesterday, of course, we did have a look at the, if you haven't seen the episode, we did Ronan Groome, have a look to the 11 WillieMullins favourites. And that did include, of course, Factophile and Jade the Grugy. And guess what? We didn't oppose either of them. So every chance the two of them could win.
Yeah, I'll probably take one of them now if you offer it to me, but two of them win and we'd be happy out. Astro Diamond, yeah, as I said in yesterday's episode, just a bit cold on her since, just the way the races worked out. Gowran was so a bit disappointing, obviously, last week. Didn't help the situation there. It's live, and she's a tiny bit shorter now, but I don't think there's any great value there. You might put the graphic up again there, Basil, just so we can see my last three. Nürburgring is an outsider in the Triumph. I still think he'll run well. I'd still back him each way, or take out Sergino without the favourite. I think he could be one to side with there, or get on side in the place market. I think he could go okay. Conflade in the Ryanair Chase. I think that's an okay bet now, to be honest with you. He hasn't shortened that much or anything, but he's definitely alive, and I could see him going off shorter still in the day. And Crebbley is my latest selection in the plate at 6-1. I just really liked his profile. He looks really progressive. He looks well handicapped. He's got course form. I just could see him going off shorter in the day. So I got him involved.
Yeah, it's look at considering the two that obviously you mentioned, that two favourites now, two very good prices, 7-1 and 10-1. Factophile and Jade the Grugy. If the two of those win, Ronan Groome, you're in a lot better position than you are giving yourself credit for. Gaelic Warrior as well. I'd say he's still going to run in the Turners. Ile Atlantique. I mean, could WillieMullins do a bit of a U-turn and maybe do a bit of a switcheroo late on? If rain did come, Ile Atlantique in a Supreme Novices Hurdle, I'd love to see it, because I think he's ground dependent, and 2 miles on soft ground, looking at his cruising speed as well. Just to mention, if he rocked up in a Supreme Novice, he'd be a lot shorter than 22-1. Astro Diamond, I think, has it all to do to beat the likes of Lossiemouth. Nürburgring, I think, to be honest, Ron, I think you're playing for the places there behind Sergino. He looks the real deal. Conflated, I don't know. I'm not, wouldn't be, look, he was an eye catcher in the Gold Cup last year, but I think Envoy Allen is the one to be with in the Ryanair. And Crebbilly, as mentioned, I think that's a really tasty selection, and I do see your logic. He could be half the price on the day. Certainly could be 7-2, 4-1, and 6-1. That could look a nice price on the day. Looking forward to seeing how he gets on. And right, moving on to my portfolio. Wilmot 16-1. That obviously he's met a setback. He doesn't go for the race. Same as Mr. Policeman. He didn't have a setback. He won last time. It's taken him a while to get his act together. And I think for the Arkle Chase, well, that is no more. And Hackadoo to Burr. Mentioned to you off air, Ronan Groome, this is the one that got away. 14-1 for the Mayor's Chase. I mentioned on yesterday's episode, I've been trying to find one to take on Dino Blue with. And this would undoubtedly, if she had stayed sound, I think she would have been a big, big player. So disappointed. Obviously, that's the joys of Ante-Post, that she met a setback and doesn't go. Teahupoo, 9-2 for the stairs. I said you could be looking at 9-4 when on the day when I did put this horse up after the Hatton's Grace. I don't think you're going to see 9-4. I'd say Jack Kennedy will definitely ride Teahupoo. If it was soft ground, you could be looking at something in around the 11-4 mark for Teahupoo on the day, maybe even shorter, 5-2. 9-4 might be a stretch, because I think the race this year is going to be a lot more competitive than it was in recent years. And when we put this up as a selection, it maybe didn't look that way. So 9-2 is still good value, but that's probably that there's every chance, Ronan Groome, that could claw back the 3 earlier points that we've mentioned there. Only by night, that was looking like an absolute cracker. 50-1 for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. I'm not even sure she's left in, Ronan, but she has it all to do, I'm sure. Fast or Slow, 6-1. For the Gold Cup. And look, I don't know. I still think he's the biggest danger and the biggest threat to Gallop in the Champ. If he performs, underperforms, should I say, Gallop in the Champ, I think it opens the door for Fast or Slow. I think he's a massive player, 6-1. I'm happy with that. Factophile, an absolute corker at 7s. Will he go off odds on the day? That'll be interesting to see. I mean, if Grey Dawning, he's shortening up now for the Turners. I think the Skeletons have said there's every chance he'll go the 2.5 mile. I think, in truth, I think the Albert Bartlett winner from last year, Stay Away Faye, I don't think he'll be quick enough, especially on that sharper old course. Factophile, could he go off odds on? It would not surprise me. Lecky Watson, 25-1 for the Albert Bartlett. This is one of my favourite shouts, Roland. I think he's a massive player. He's 12-1 now. I think there's still value in Lecky Watson. He's still a double-figure price, but 25-1. He's placed on 2 occasions this season in graded company. He was running an absolute cracker last year in the Champion Bumper before getting sandwiched by, of course, Captain Teague. He came out worse than the Champion Bumper. His form is rock solid. That bumper has produced over 20 winners this season. So incredible stuff, the form of the Champion Bumper and how it's working out. Gidley Park. Now, this is interesting because all the money, especially on the exchanges, indicate that, they might be stepping this horse up in trip. And if he was to foil me, Ronan Groome, with Lecky Watson in the Albert Barton, how disappointing would that be? He's unbeaten, Gidley Park. He's a cracking animal. I just wonder about... I think the new course will suit him probably better than the old course. 3 miles is not going to be an issue. I just wonder, is he experienced or battled hardened enough for a race like the Albert Barton, especially at this point in his career? If they weren't going Ballymore, I'd prefer if they skipped Cheltenham and didn't go this year, to be honest. Jade the Grugy, 10-1 for the Mayor's Novice. I think she's the most likely winner. Salvador Mundi, beaten only by 2 lengths by Sergino in France. It'll be interesting to see. WillieMullins has run newcomers in this race before. He's won it with a newcomer. Salvador Mundi, could he run in the race? I haven't thrown out the ticket as of yet, but it's a big ask, isn't it? Envoy Allen, 5-1 for the Ryanair Chase. Rock solid, last year's winner. I don't think Ronan got the credit he deserved when winning the race last year. 5-1 for the Ryanair. I could see him going off, especially if there was rain. I could see him going off close to favoured. I think, obviously, if it's good to soft ground, Banbridge will definitely go off favoured, but I think Envoy Allen is the one to beat in this race. Salvador Ziggy, 10-1 for the National Hunt Chase. This is turning out to be an absolute corker, Roland, because he's now 4-1 in the market. Nicer ground will help. He looks well in on ratings. I mean, looking back at his effort in the Kerry National, horses that are rated above 150 tend to go well in this race. Gowran has a cracking record in the National Hunt Chase, and I'm happy with that. And also double figure price. Chantry House, I would say you'll be seeing single figures on the day. We'll come on to our week 15 selections very, very shortly, but we've been tasked this week, and the topic this week, Ronan Groome, is to do an each way lucky 15. So horses that you think at big prices that can hit the frame in the respective races. And we also have to give our week 15 selection. So we want the viewers to get involved. We want you down below to put in your each way lucky 15 for Cheltenham. At this point in time, double figure prices. Get your selections down below, obviously for week 15. But give us an each way lucky 15 that you're thinking as well. We love reading and engaging, obviously, in the comments and replying in the comments down below. And let's start some conversation. Ronan Groome, kick us off your first selection for the each way lucky 15.
Yeah, for my first one, I'm going to put in Mascada for a back-to-back win in the Grand Annual Chase. I think that's the only race she can go for, because I'm pretty sure 2 miles is what she needs, or what she's best over. I know she won a Tim Duggan over 3.5, but I think she's better over 2 miles. She got involved in the burn up the last day at Naas, and in any case, I think that might have been a prep kind of run anyway. She was soft enough in the betting that day. She went off 100-30, and as I said, just got involved in a bit of a boil up early on, and Allegory Devassi came through. And if it was a prep run, I'm sure the Grand Annual is what they're thinking of, because she's had 3 runs now this season, and not really. Like, her run at Cork was good. She caught the eye there in behind El Fabiolo, but the other 2 runs haven't been great. So she's actually come down a bit in the weights. She's just, let me check quickly. She's 149 in Ireland now. She won the Grand Annual off a mark of 142 last season. I think she'll probably be 10 pounds higher, but all you have to do is look at the Grand Annual form. Last year she beat Dino Blue, Global Citizen back in 3rd. The winner who won the race the previous year. I think it's really rock solid form. The Grand Annual, obviously 2 mile handicap chase, it's a very unique test. So that she has the course know-how, and she's been there and done it. I think she's a classy enough mare, and I just thought she was a bit overpriced. So she'd be my first one into the lucky 15 in and around the 14-1 mark.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go towards the Gold Cup Ronan Groome, and it's 16-1. And on ratings, and I suppose for the traditionalists, this horse mightn't exactly be a player in the Gold Cup, but I genuinely think he's every chance of getting into the frame. And it's a two-time festival winner, Corach Rambler. We were speaking off air. I mean, he's officially rated 159. And I just think, Ronan Groome, that might just underestimate this horse's ability. I mean, look, we're talking about fast or slow and giving him a chance in the Gold Cup. He's 6-1. This horse is 16-1. He's since come out and won a Grand National and finished ahead of fast or slow in the Ultima last year. I think the extra 2 furlongs could bring out the best in Corach Rambler. His best form is clearly in the spring, and 3 of his 5 wins over fences have actually come at Cheltenham. So I could just see a world where they're travelling down the hill. There's plenty of pace in the Gold Cup. Obviously with the likes of, I don't know, as a Hoyson you're going to run in the race, but you have the likes of the real whacker. Obviously, Hewick has met it in the past. Braveman's Game likes to be handy. And Gallop and the Champ is going to be ridden more aggressively. I think WillieMullins has said that there's every chance they're going to ride Gallop and the Champ more aggressive than they did last year. There's no shortage of pace in the race. Shishkin, we saw what he done as well on nicer ground in the King George. He came to dispute the lead. I think passing the stands for the first time. So if he's on a going day, he'd like to be up there on the pace. They're going to go a real good gallop in the Gold Cup, and you'll have Corach Rambler creeping away. And I could just see a world where coming down the hill, almost in Hewick fashion, that Corach Rambler is absolutely swinging. And I could just see that happening 16-1. I think there's every chance he could hit the frame and play. So this is an each way lucky 15. I think Corach Rambler could be overestimated if there's one of the big price in the Gold Cup to hit the frame. On last year's Ultima form, he was so impressive in the National. For the traditionalist Ronan Groome, they're not going to love it. And I think the last 10-year-old to win the Gold Cup, I think there was only one 10-year-old that won the Gold Cup in the last 30 seasons. So he'd be booking a few trends, but I just love the horse. And we both love it. You had him in the challenge last year. I had him in the challenge the year before that. And I just could see a world where Corach Rambler runs a massive race in the Gold Cup.
I could see it too. Absolutely. I had a few quid on him. I must confess, I had a few quid on him earlier in the season. At a kind of big prices on the exchange for the Gold Cup. I think he could run well. I don't like this talk from Lucinda Russell saying it's a prep run and this sort of thing. They should. I get that the Grand National is possibly the more realistic target, and he's got a nice weight there again. He's definitely a big player in the race for Lucinda again. But the Gold Cup, like with his 4 course from around Cheltenham, definitely. On that subject, I'll stick with the Gold Cup because one of the horses I have in my profile already, and as I said there, I haven't given up on him, is Gentleman's Game. He's still available in around the kind of 16-1, 20-1 mark, and I give him a big chance. I don't. It's not a big chance, but I think there's a bit of leeway in the price there, especially for the purpose of this lucky 15. Like the inexperiences thing you'd hold against him, but on the flip side, you could say he has the scope to progress again. He's only had 3 starts over fences, so if he did handle the test of the Gold Cup, now I guess that is a big if. He's got the scope to improve and be a top class chaser, especially off the back of his defeat of Brave Man's Game at Wetherby earlier in the season. Even if you look earlier in his form, he beat I Am Maximus in his beginner's chase comprehensively at Leopardstown. That looks quite strong for him now. He looks a stare.
It was interesting just listening to Ronan, just to pick up on that actually, because it was interesting listening to Darragh O'Keefe on the Cheltenham preview night hosted by Brian Ireland and the lads down in Cork. Darragh O'Keefe went back to that beginner's chase and said that Gentleman's Game wasn't fully wound up on the day either. So they were hoping that he would come on plenty for that run, and he absolutely trounced them on that occasion. Yeah,
I think he got to a real high level over hurdles. He was third to Classical Dream in a Grade 1 at Punchestown, 3 miles. Now, granted, he hasn't had that many runs in his life, but again, on the flip side, that means he just has lots of scope to progression. He has that classic kind of Gold Cup profile, doesn't he, of a second season chaser, improving all the time. And
do you know the way they say? Sorry to interrupt. Do you know the way they say WillieMullins and Henry de Brom had trained their horses to the minute? And when it comes to Cheltenham, I think Mouse Morris trains them to the second.
Yeah, It's the classic Miles thing. He's done this before, hasn't he? The early runs on the season and then just batten down the hatches and get them ready. Now, I think he did have a bit of a setback, gentlemen, in the game, did he? Only a small thing, but maybe he was hoping to run him again. But speaking to Mouse there recently at a press day, he was happy enough with the horse. It's just all question of, getting him there. I guess trainers get into that cotton wool kind of phase now where they just want to make sure everything's okay. But he's happy enough with the horse, and maybe he was talking about, I think, would he have the tactical speed or something was his only real concern, but he thought if he got over that he would have a chance. And his Mouse Morris has been there and done it with the Gold Cup. So I just think there's a bit of leeway in the price there, Basil, around 16-1 for the purposes of this lucky 15. It wouldn't put anyone off throwing him in.
Yeah, well, I'll stick with the championship races for the theme of this each way lucky 15, and one still hanging on to a double figure price. Ronan Groome went for, I think, over 600,000 at the sale at Tattersall's when, of course, there was the big Caldwell Construction clear out, and Rob Core seemed to they pounced. You like the gentleman's game for the Gold Cup. I think they have a chance with Phil Dore, which runs in the Ryanair Chase. Now, I mentioned Envoy. I think he's probably the most likely winner, but the one that's open to, in my view, the most improvement in the race, that's entered up in the race, is Phil Dore, the 6-year-old, who obviously likes Cheltenham. Ronan Groome obviously was second to Vauban in the Triumph Hurdle back in March 2022. Last year, probably the race at Gowran, the Red Mills Hurdle, might have come a little bit too close for Phil Dore. Obviously ran after that at the Cheltenham Festival in the Coral Cup. So I think that was soft to heavy ground when it won at Gowran Park. The Red Mills Hurdle might just come a little bit too soon. The race, it was a real attritional finish to that race as well. Sharjah was second on that occasion, and Dr. Bravo was back in third. The Cap of Glory was fourth. So it was a real good Red Mills Hurdle. And looking at his form this year, obviously, we mentioned Dino Blue for the Mayor's Chase yesterday. She's obviously favoured for that. Well, Phil Dore ran an absolute cracker on its return this season over the 2 miles on soft ground to finish second to Dino Blue, obviously given her weight on that occasion. And obviously since was second to El Fabiola down in the Hilly Way and has been kept fresh for this race. Gordon Elliott reported that obviously he's in real good form, changed silks without changing stables, goes for the race. And I just think looking at the race itself, Roland, 10-1 might just underestimate his ability. Bambridge, I mean, if it comes up soft, he's not going to run, I'd say. Envoy Allen, I'd say, will run regardless. Stage Stars on a recovery mission. Conflated, could be running in a veteran's chase. I know you like him. Capadano, his target is the National. Appreciated for me. I couldn't back Appreciated again in his life. And you're looking at Phil Dore, who's a 6-year-old, unexposed, moving up and trip. I think 10-1 might just underestimate him. I think Envoy Allen probably the most likely winner. But for each way claims, Phil Dore, 10-1 is my pick for the second leg of the Lucky 15.
Yeah, I can see the angle. Third pick, I'm going to a race that I just think looks ripe for another upset. It's the Albert Bartlett. Going to go with Gordon's Jigginstown horse here called Search for Glory. On the basis of he's got a couple of wins over 3 miles, so he's got stamina in the bank, which you can't say for a lot of these. And he's also got a lot of experience on side, which I still think is a tool. Now, obviously, you see some years you get a Manila Indo here or a Monkfish unexposed, top class. That's fine. It doesn't look like there's going to be one of those this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe something will come through with an unexposed profile and turn out to be quite good. But at the moment, it doesn't look. We were just discussing on yesterday's one podcast that, High Class Hero kind of default favourite there. Form, nothing to write home about. So this Search for Glory, what you have with him is rock solid stamina, loads of experience, 9 runs. And I'm just like, I excuse him to run at Christmas. Limerick, bad ground, 4th. That turned into a bit of a sprint. He ran fine, the form has worked out okay. Answered to Kate. Loughlin, so there's something wrong with him at the Dublin Racing Festival, so I wouldn't look too much into that. And then he came out again. He won the Michael Purcell and Clonmel. Now, that wasn't actually pretty to watch at all. He had to go and make his own running, and it just didn't suit him at all. But he still managed to put away a progressive sort and Harvard guy there. Maybe he didn't stay. Still turned him over comprehensively, despite racing kind of lazily and needing a lot of urging along. Previously to his run at Leopardstown, he won a Cork quite smoothly, beat a horse there called Solitary Man over 3 miles as well. I just think you have a lot going for you there, and you're getting plenty with the price at 25 to 1 thereabouts. And as I said, if you race now on the day, I could see myself loading up the old machine and having a few shillings on a few big prices and trying to get a turn up, a bit of a boil over. And he'd definitely be one I'd be keeping on side. So I'm going to throw him in here for my third selection in the Lucky 15.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I got to throw in a selection into the Lucky 15 that's already gone into the challenge at 25 to 1. I mentioned I still think he's value, Ronan Groome. And we're going the Albert Bartlett route also. And I think the horse that ticks more or less all the boxes is Lecky Watson, who ran an absolute cracker in the Champion Bumper last year to finish 4th of 21 runners. And look at the amount of winners that's come out of that Champion Bumper. I think I said 20. I stand to be corrected on that. Certainly over 17 winners have come out of that Champion Bumper last year. And I mean, he's had 5 runs in bumpers. And I think people hold that against him, that officially, Ronan, he didn't actually win a bumper. But he did win a bumper because he won it at Punchestown. He was thrown out. I thought that was a poor decision by the stewards. So just looking at his form over hurdles this year, I mean, he's come second to Slade Steele, who could yet go off favourite for the Ballymore. And that was up at Navan, up that stiff hill at Navan. I mean, he stayed on better than any of the runners on that occasion, hit the line very, very hard. Another furlong and a half, I'd say he would have been ahead of Slade Steele. So obviously that was on really testing ground, heavy ground. He was third staying on, didn't have much cover in the Lawlers at Naas. I know lots has been made about, WillieMullins' comments after the race. Was a little bit keen maybe perhaps, but they'll go a stronger pace in the Albert Bartlett. And if there was a race tailor-made for a horse at Cheltenham, Ronan Groome, it's the Albert Bartlett for Lecky Watson. I love his profile. He's had enough runs now. They didn't run him in the Dublin Racing Festival to get him qualified for a handicap. This has been the target. It's the race that you can find one at a double-figure price. I said on yesterday's show that 8 of the last 10 winners have returned 14 to 1 or bigger. You're not quite getting, if you followed us in, you would have got 25 to 1, but you can still get 12 to 1. So we're going to put him into the Lucky 15 each way at that price. 11 of the last 12 winners have actually won over 2 miles and 6 furlongs. His first run over hurdles was over 2 miles and 7, and Rushmount has come out last week and absolutely bolted up to frank the form. So placed into in a grade 1 and a grade 2 this season off the back of that victory in a maiden at Thurles over 2 miles 7. And I think the other thing to mention as well is this rating. 140 plus. I think 10 of the last 14 winners have a decent rating coming into this. So that's proper graded level coming into a race like this. And 17 of the last 19 winners have at least placed at grade 2 level or more, so over hurdles. So I think he ticks so many boxes for the race. If they can get him settled area, we saw it last year in the Albert Bartlett. It is 3 miles, but they go a good lick. So a good end-to-end gallop is going to suit Lecky Watson. He'll be able to switch him off. There'll be no horse staying on better than him, I think, at the finish. He's a real dour stayer, and the new course will suit him well. So I'm so keen on Lecky Watson. In actual fact, to put him up as the each-way charity bet, Ronan Groome, on the Cheltenham preview night that I did down in the Red Line in Bagnallstown a couple of weeks ago. So fingers crossed for the Pitching Puck Club, fingers crossed for the viewers who followed us in, and fingers crossed for Lara Byrne and the Sladeville Syndicate.
They'll be doing a dance in the Pitch and Puck Club, when this Lecky Watson comes in. They'll be throwing clubs into the air. So are we doing our official our challenge horse now, our last leg of the Lucky 15?
Well, we were discussing this off air, and our last leg of the Lucky 15 happens to be both of our it wasn't designed like this, but happens to be our week 15 selection. So we will get our week 15 selection after this.
Granger and Patrick Mullins.
McGree had justified favouritism, but sharp object out in front was ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, Silverland. Never be the finishing order.
Yeah, so it's time for our week, I was going to say week, our episode 15 selection on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. And as I always do, Ronan Groome, I will give you the honour. Last leg of the Lucky 15 each way, and your week, your episode, I keep saying it, episode 15 selection.
Yeah, I'm going for another handicap one, and I think this one is a prudent one just before the handicap weights come out, which is obviously all important. But I just wanted to get ahead of the crowd on this one, and I'm trying to anticipate what this horse is going to get. And it's just one of those ones where obviously you don't know the rest of the race and how it's going to be handicapped. And you can't allow for that sort of thing. But sometimes you just see a price and you just can't. I don't know. For me, the price is too big at the moment, even without the information of how the race is going to be handicapped. The horse is called Waterford Whispers. He goes for the Martin Pipe, all being well. Robbie Power, I was on a preview with him, as I said, on Saturday, and asked him. Robbie Power obviously does a lot of the race planning for Henry de Bromhead. Now, granted, this horse is owned by JP. So they'll have their own ideas of where they're going. But Robbie said the plan is, at the moment, is to go for the Martin Pipe. It's his only entry. And he just has a really, really interesting profile. Only the 4 runs. He only had the 4 runs in his life. But that was obviously key because it qualifies him for a handicap. And off the back of what he's done this season, he just looks really progressive. Beat Attaboy Charlie first time out at Galway. That's form that's worked out really well. Went then to Fairyhouse and beat a horse called Answer to Cave. That form again has worked out really well with that horse. Answer to Cave went on and finished 2nd or 3rd in a Grade 2 and has won again since. And the last day he was beaten by Champagne Admiral at Leopardstown, but that was a bit of a crawl, that race, and he just didn't see it out. He couldn't use his stamina like he had done previously. I think they've just had a look at his mark, 127. They haven't ran him since, and I think they've decided this is a Martin Pipe horse. When he gets his, what's the tax these days, looking at something like £4, £5, he'd be in and around 131, 132. That would have got him into the race last season. Granted, it might be a bit tight. I think he will get into the race. And he's got the 4 runs. And on the flip side, Sat Majest, who's the chat horse for, I suppose, like when the handicap entries came out, he was one of the real talking horses. He might actually get too much. He could go up over 145, as we were discussing off air, Basil. So that would mean he'd be JP's number 1 hope in this race. And you always feel JP has one for this Martin Pipe. It's a race he likes to win. And this Waterford Whispers, I just thought it was too interesting to ignore in around the 16-1 mark. So here's my end of my lucky 15, my last selection in that, and obviously my latest selection in the challenge.
Yeah, wish you well with that, Ronan Groome, and I think he does have quite a nice little profile. So yeah, wouldn't put you off that whatsoever, and did come onto the radar for sure, as did my next selection when I saw he was entered and last seen in the Galway Plate. This horse is named after the rival, well, one of the surrounding and rival counties of Carlow, named after a town in County Wicklow. Enniskerry was last seen in the Galway Plate over 2 miles 6 furlongs. A really good jumper. Has won a Grade 3 over fences as a novice, Ronan Groome. Has only had 4 starts as 4 chase starts in its life. Another 10-year-old goes into the challenge here, and I just think this horse is really low mileage, and this has been the target for Enniskerry. All 5 wins have come on nicer ground. I think the ground drying up is definitely going to suit. As mentioned, last seen in the Galway Plate, I think it was a stretch too far for him, distance-wise. You know, he's quite a slick jumper, jumps very quick, travels well in his races. I just think 2 miles 6 at Galway was a stretch, and travelled into the race nicely, but finished 7th in that Galway Plate. You were mentioning the tax. I mean, as we're recording, look, you know, could you see him in around the 150 mark, maybe the low 150s? That'll be fine for him in horses in the Grand Annual. By the way, I should mention the race, double figure price, 12-1 for the Grand Annual. I just think that's a decent price for Barry Connell's runner here. And we've seen Barry Connell had a winner at the weekend with the well-touted William Money. He's obviously got horses to Cheltenham off the back of a long absence in the past as well. Hensbury and National went fresh to the Supreme Novice and won it last year. So that wouldn't be a worry coming out of the stable that he's coming out of. And I think back and trip is the angle with Enniskerry, a really slick jumper, travels like a 2-miler in his races. And I think off that type of mark, there's every chance he can be banged there in a Grand Annual. And look, I think he could be a graded horse in a handicap. Michael O'Sullivan, I'm sure, will be on board. So Enniskerry, my latest pick into the challenge, Ronan Groome, another 10-year-old, my third 10-year-old from 15 episodes. I don't know whether that's a bad or a good thing, but this is a lightly raced 10-year-old once again and could be great at class in a handicap at Cheltenham. Thoughts on Enniskerry?
Yeah, he's a horse that backed before. Back to 2 miles, interesting. As you say, low mileage. Barry Connell in great form in Naas. I was at Naas yesterday and talking about this WillieMullins, the best bumper horse in Ireland, he said. Doesn't go to Cheltenham for the champion bumper, but he thinks he's the one to beat in the Punchestown bumper. So there you go. Barry, he was getting Marine Nationale jiggy like with this WillieMullins. So he was disgusted with the price that he was allowed to go off yesterday at Naas, and I thought he was completely underrated. And big fan of that. But yeah, he also mentioned Enniskerry he's going to go for this race. So I think you're on target anyway with him. He's that's his aim. So that's half the battle.
Yeah, and I think he's only had 14 runs in his life. Mentioned he's 10 years of age, but there could still be more to come from Enniskerry at Cheltenham, over 2 miles, over fences. Right, Ronan Groome, that concludes episode number 15. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow, Wednesday. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the next 2 weeks, as we mentioned. Make sure to let us know your latest selections down below, and also participate. Let us know your each way lucky 15 for the festival at this point in time. Getting interesting as we're recording, of course, Ronan. We've lots to discuss tomorrow in the way of the handicap weights, and I look forward to that. We'll see you then.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.